In 1933, through Roosevelt's New Deal, the Homeowners Loan Corporation was created. This government-sponsored corporate entity was tasked at saving people's mortgages by helping them refinance with the banks during the Great Depression, when most families were losing their homes. The Homeowners Loan Corporation created the first residential security maps, which denoted which areas had been infiltrated by foreign-born and Negroes. These maps were used by the Federal Housing Administration to decide which neighborhoods were worth investing and which ones were not. In neighborhoods where minorities were present, the FHA would not issue loans at all. This policy left blacks and foreign-born people hoping to purchase houses to the predatory loan markets, making it more costly and riskier for those people to own houses in the city. This federal program was nationwide, affecting people in 239 cities. These maps helped develop a fear of minorities, just as the second Great Migration was occurring at the height of Jim Crow. Black families had been fleeing the racism and terror of the Deep South and moving to the northern cities. At the same time, the propaganda and policies by the banks were creating paranoia about blacks in the cities. A technique called blockbusting arose. As black families entered a white neighborhood, the banks would contact the white residents and warn them of the dangers. The banks would then purchase these homes from the white families at far below market value for later resale. In Baltimore, this created white flight. As black people moved into the city, the white people moved out. In just 4 decades, starting in 1940, Baltimore had flipped from a predominantly white city to predominantly black. This process was spurred along by the growth of automobile ownership, making it easier for wealthier people to commute to the city. This new commuter class created an increase in traffic congestion within the city that Baltimore roads and infrastructure were not equipped to handle. This led to a series of transportation projects, including the East-West Expressway, the Baltimore Area Mass Transportation Plan, and the Redline. The first attempt at alleviating this problem was the East-West Expressway, more commonly referred to today as the former I-170, the ditch, or the highway to nowhere. With numerous proposals surfacing between the 1940s and 1960s, the ultimate goal was to connect the city's east and west sides. This ultimately resulted in a plan to develop a 22-mile route connecting Interstate 70 to Interstate 95. While there was much pushback from both sides of the city on this plan, the construction of the highway began in the 1970s in the west side of Baltimore, specifically in a middle-class black neighborhood known as Harlem Park. Environmental activists and wealthy whites in the Leakin Park and Fells Point areas ultimately stopped the expansion of this project. What was left was a 1.4-mile road that serves no purpose, destroyed over 900 homes, 62 businesses, and displaced over 1,500 mostly middle-class black residents. While the construction of the highway to nowhere was stalling, Baltimore began planning for a rail system, which resulted in the Baltimore Area Mass Transportation Plan, a 6-leg rail system extending to all corners of the city with extensive downtown and suburban coverage. This plan quickly began to fall apart when the citizens and political leaders began to express fear about undesirable elements taking the subway, going to the suburbs and committing crimes like burglary and robbery. Once again, fear and racism left poor and minority residents without sufficient means of reliable, affordable transportation. Today, all that is left of this plan is the light rail and a metro line that extends from Owing Mills to Johns Hopkins Hospital. In early 2000, Baltimore had a chance to revive its east-west expressway and possibly redeem some of its past wrongdoings. The proposal for the light rail Redline would have utilized unused segments of the highway to nowhere. The Redline would have extended from Woodlawn on the west side to Johns Hopkins Bayview on the east. It would have given many people the opportunity for jobs they previously would not have had access to, or that would currently involve a complicated 2-hour bus ride. However, once again, fear and racism put an end to the project, with much of the opposition coming from the wealthier whites on the east side of the city. In 2015, Governor Larry Hogan canceled its construction on grounds of cost, in referring to it as a wasteful boondoggle. Coincidentally, Governor Hogan did not cancel the Purple Line, another light rail proposal with similar costs, but serving the people of wealthier Montgomery and Prince George's counties. In January of 2017, the U.S. Department of Transportation announced they would be investigating the cancellation of the Redline project under DOT's Title VI regulation that no one be denied benefits of the program based on grounds of race, color, or national origin. This investigation has since been dropped by the Trump administration. In Baltimore today, we still see the effects of legal segregation and other discriminatory policies. Baltimore is still incredibly segregated. When people are denied the opportunities of building equity, owning homes, and access to reliable, affordable transportation, it takes its toll. In Baltimore, we see a 20-year difference in life expectancy between predominantly white neighborhoods and predominantly black neighborhoods. Median incomes and home ownership rates nearly double for whites compared to black residents, and unemployment rates as high as 37% for young black men in Baltimore. Traffic is not the problem the city is facing. It is a symptom of a much larger problem. Segregated neighborhoods coupled with restrictive transportation and decades of underinvestment from the city and state have left Baltimore fractured. Neighborhoods so completely different that your zip code is as good an indicator of your life expectancy as a predictor of the color of your skin. Many of these issues are not linear problems. Solving the segregation issue will not solve the transportation issue, and neither will solve each other in the reverse. If investment monies are not spent in a more meaningful way, the problems will certainly exacerbate. It is important to the future of our city that we take steps to work towards dissolving these color lines and to lift the restrictions keeping people stuck in poverty. We need to create a city that will bring back residents while at the same time lifting the ones we already have so that they will not be displaced in the process. How we might go about this is anybody's guess, but we need to have an honest conversation of our past, our present, and our goals for the future. Because as Paul Wellstone once said, when we all do better, we all do better.